Hello and welcome to the React Lecture 9 coding demo. So in this lecture, we'll use the useSearchParam to create our search component and do the necessary thing. So let's go and start doing the coding. So I'll open the VS Code and we'll start from the previous lecture, which is we created the React router. And then we have, so if you go here, we'll see that we have app.js, and in the app.js we actually created two routes. One is the students, so it shows the summary of all the students information from a local database, and then you can also see the specific details of a student, right? So that's we have created. Now we'll create another component, the search component, so that user can search for students by the name. Okay, so we will create a new component. So let's go and create it. So okay, before that we can see that okay, the previous code is running, so that's always good to check. So okay, so if we do here, so we have the JSON here, so we can write npm start, and we can see that we have this route, and then we have, if I click here, and it shows details. So both the routes are working. So let's go and add our next component. It's search component. So we'll create search dot js, okay, and then we'll create a function search, and then return, and then fragment symbol. Okay, so this is basically common, and then we export default search. Okay, so we'll define it, but let's go and do the other things that to link this component with the navigation bar and create the route. So I'll just copy this one and then create here, and then we'll just give them the route name as search, and then this one will be your search component. Okay, and then we need to import the components. So you write import search from component search. Okay, so we import this, and now we added this path, and then we need to add the link. Okay, so we added a link here. So I also give the nav as a class name is nav. Okay, so that we can add some css. Okay, so we'll do the route name is search. We link to that route, and then we'll keep this name as such. Okay, okay, so let's see that how it's look like after adding this. So okay, let's go to this. So we have students, uh, okay, so div link to search. Okay, so it should be adding with the search, right? So students and search. Okay, let me see that. I saw that search button or search link rather. Let's see. This only shows the students. Okay, so let's see that the if we add the search component, because the search component is not defined. Let's see that whether it changed. Okay, so let's say that search component. So if I write something here, say search for a student by name. Okay. Now let's see. Oh, I can see now the search. And search for a student by name. Okay, so this is the student and this is the search. Okay, We can change this navigation later, this aesthetic part, but mainly I want to define this component, okay? So let's go and define it. So so in the search, what we need to do, we need to create a search field so that user can enter the search item, and then we also need to import the hooks, right? Use search param hooks. And then also we want to give a link so that the search students can be can be linked to find the details of that. So we need to import two things. One is the link, okay, and another one is the use search params, okay, from React Router DOM. Okay, use search params. Okay, now let's call the use search param by writing constant, and then we write, so that's the user defined name. So we say search params, and then we write set search params. So the names are camel case by convention, and then we say use search params, and then we can initialize since we just want to search by name. So we said name initially is empty string. Okay, so that's our user params. It's written two things. One is an object for the search keywords, and another one is the function. Okay, now we want to check that whether there is anything in the search params, then we will make it lowercase. Okay, so we'll do that. So we write constant as search text. So search text will be search params dot get, and then we want to get the value under the name property. And if it is true, then we'll do to lowercase. Yeah. Now our search text is set, so we need to search for it, right? So based on if there is anything um, in this property, right? So we'll check this one, that if this is true, right, then we want to return something, right? Um, so for that, let's create an empty list or array. So we write let students is null initially, and then we'll say that if the this condition is true, then we will return the students and then assign to here. So say, okay, so we need the local database, right? So the database is under the source. So we'll import the student DB. So write import student stu students DB from, so from where we are going to import it. So since this is under the source, we need to go one step back, source, and then student DB. Okay. So students DB, we import it. Now we can say that student DB dot, so we are using the filter method since we need, that could be multiple students, right? Um, so we write, uh, okay, so what is saying if such parameter get is true, then students db dot filter, and then we'll filter by, let's say that each student, and then each student uh, has a name dot includes the search text. Okay, so you see that what is happening here, we say that we are applying the filter method to our student db. So this is the student dbs, right? So we have a set of students, okay, and we export it, and then we import it in here as the name as students db, and then we are searching that looking for all the possible students who is has the name um, has some such text in it. The such text is coming from the user input. Okay, so far so good. We get a set of students, but the other thing we also need to give the user a text box, right? So we can write input, um, input, and then say type string. Oh, sorry, type is text. Okay, and then okay, type is text, and then placeholder is John Doe, and then we give the value to, so we registered the value um, to this one. So whatever the value in here, if there is, or we'll say that uh, empty string. Okay, so if there is any such text, so that will be the value here, otherwise it's just the empty. Okay, and then on change, so if anything happen in that field, any change happen, then we need to update that. So we write say e dot target. So is basically an event, anything you can write, event dot target dot value. So this value should set as search params, and since the search param is an object, so we write the object symbol here, and so this should go to the property is name and assign this value to that property. Okay, so you say that okay, if there is any event happen like change event, then set search param will update the object, the name property will get the new value. Okay, so that's our object. So and then this is the set search function, and then this is the on change event. Okay, so that's the what you are writing, right? So when the user writes, so you should see that, okay, so we can see that we are writing something. So if you write something and then the name field is getting the value here, right? Now we need to render that what actually the database has, okay? So we need to render it. So that's the part we need to do, okay? So we'll say that the condition is that if the students that we are returning, and at least we have one student in that list is greater than 0. Okay, so if the students dot length is greater than 0, and then we'll do, otherwise we don't do anything. So this is basically the conditional rendering with just the one statement we want to return. If the condition is true, then we return. If it's not, then we don't want to return. So that's how we just write this one. Okay, and then we will return in an unordered list. So we write eval. Okay, and then here we want to write the JSX expression that if the students is there, so since this is an array, so we need to do the mapping, right? So we write students dot map. So that's the map function, and then each student will we want to, so each student is an object, so we want to see their value, right? So what do we want to see? We want to say, let's say that we want to put that value in a list. Okay, so the list we want to see the student dot id, and then we also want to see their name, student dot name. Okay, and then since the id is unique, we can give the key value of it to student dot id. Okay, so that's the conditional rendering that we have seen in the previous lecture, that okay, if this condition is true, we just want to return this. Okay, so this is an unordered list, and inside the unordered list we are just writing the list item. Okay, so let's see that if I have something, oh, okay, it should not be a null because this is an array, right? So it should be an array, empty array. Okay, so that's why. So because we want, so it's not an object, right? So it is an array. So we said, okay, this is an empty array. So that's why we are checking if the length is greater than 0. So that means it's non-empty. Now we can see that if I write A, and then it basically shows these are the students which has A keyword, right? So if I write A and N, then it just shows that these are the students which has A and N, right? And then if I write L, so okay, so we write, so based on whichever is matching, it shows, okay? Um, so now, the one thing is that if I want to see the details of each of the students, then I need to link to our details route. So that's the one thing that's still we need to do. So we'll give a link to this one, right? So for that, so we imported the link component. So we'll write that here. So it link to and then so the link, the name, the user will see it's uh, this one, and then it will link to our route. So two will be, so we need to give a string. So we write, okay, so that's the student's route. Inside the student's route, we want to give this one, the student ID. So this now will link to the students slash student ID route. Okay. And then it's linked to the student name. That's the will display. Okay. So let's see. So now if I click and then it shows the Bramley. And then if I go again, search for A, and then we search for this one, and then let's do this one. Okay. So it's working fine. Now we can, let's say that we can modify this navigation bar. We can make it as a flex. So if you see that in app.js, we created the class name is nav. So let's go to our CSS. We can create our nav um, class selector, and then we can write the display is flex. So that is basically a flex box, and then we can make a gap now. Let's say that gap of each of the component is 7 pixel. So now let's see. So now they are side by side. Okay, you can add other thing like background or anything, whatever you want to do. Okay, so if I go for search route and search for AB, and then I find this one, and it's working fine. Okay, so that means it's great, it's working fine. So let's recap what you have learned. So we created another route, the search route, and then we create the link to that route, and then we import the search component. So the search component is the new component we just created. So we need the link and the useSearchParams. So these are the hooks. useSearchParam is a hook, and then we initialize this hook to the name is null, or you can say, sorry, empty string. And then I will say that if user anything type, then we can make it as a search text. And then so initially we said this is null, but okay, then we found that there is an error. Okay, so we make it as an empty array. Then we can apply this condition that okay, if the array length is greater than 0 or not. Okay, and then since the filter method we need to use, because the name can be, so because we are giving the search keyword, and then it can be multiple matches, so we use the filter method instead of a find method. The find method we use for the comparing with the unique value like the ID, right? The filter is basically to match with multiple of them, so it's return a set of objects in an array format. Okay, and this is the text box we created and registered to this search parameter. And then if anything changes, and then we update that search parameter value. And then here we map the students if we have some students in that array, and then we display their ID and the name, and then also link to the name, and then link to this route which we have created previously, students and ID route. So it will link to that specific students details, which we already created previously. That this is basically called the student details component, and student details component will map through the key and the value for each student, okay, which is a match student. Okay, so that's it, and see you in the next video. Thank you.